Hey friend, welcome to the treehouse. Want to come inside? Oh, wait, just one last thing. All right, let's go inside. Welcome to Frame by Frame. So excited to have you here today. Let me know in the chat if I'm coming in loud and clear, if everything's looking great, and let me know where you're tuning in from. I love seeing all the photo friends from all around the world joining for some great photography chat. So excited about today, and today just quick couple notes before we get into the challenge and the reviews, the color gradient challenge. Sorry for anyone that wanted to join the Q&A yesterday. We ended up, all three of us ended up having things. Sam is in Micronesia filming a documentary. Will was in the middle of driving up north for a work project. Babysitters got canceled yesterday for me, so I had to pick up the kids from school. But yeah, so happy to be here. We are not going to have a Q&A this December, unfortunately. So we will be back with a Q&A session next year, if you can believe that, 2026. Whew, can't believe it's the end of the year already. I'm sure you all feel the same. But we'll get back to it, get a schedule going for next year as well. Hello, good morning, good evening, everyone in the chat. Caesar, Miriam, good to see you. Rhino, Luke, what's up? Jenny, Suzanne, the Prof, 3000. Welcome. Another quick note is, and I mentioned this last week, but I already have all the weekly challenges scheduled for next year, so you can just get excited for more weekly challenges coming up in 2026 every week. What's up, Thomas? Imran, hi. And as I do every year, well, this is the third year I've done it, I am putting all the challenges into a book, which you can get on Amazon as an ebook or a printed copy. Hold on one second. Let me show you. I got the draft version of it in the mail already, which is pretty cool. So look quickly. You can get a sneak peek of all 52 challenges for 2026. There you go. I will be giving away the ebook version of this for free at the start of the year. Of course, you can support me by purchasing the ebook or getting a hardcover. Pretty cool to see these three now. But yeah, stay tuned for that announcement. It actually helps if you download the free version or purchase it when we do an official launch, and that helps. People actually buy this and like it, and it helps support the channel. So stay tuned for that. Lorena, hello. With that being said, we're going to get into the color gradient challenge, and this week I want to try, I feel like every week I'm trying to do things a little different, but I feel like the past couple times have gone so long, like an hour and a half, and I feel like it's starting to drag. And for my sanity, and probably for your sanity too, I want to tighten it up. Go a little quicker. I still want it to be valuable, but I just want it to be a little bit snappier so that we can get through these photos in somewhat reasonable amount of time. Question about the book. Caesar asks, is that a book with themes or challenges with pictures from the challenges? It is for each week for all next year, or like you could have gotten this past year's, it just has the prompt and 5 tips for that challenge that you might want to think about. But it doesn't have like student photos or anything like that. It has one sample photo, but just the same photo that you see on the website when we post the challenge as well. But it's just a way that you can like take notes on it. You can just have it. You can have access to all the upcoming challenges if you want to, sneak peek so you can work on them ahead of time, that kind of thing. All right. So without further ado, I hope you're all doing great this week. I don't know. It's the end of the year. Let me know what your top moment of 2025 was and what you're looking forward to in 2026. Off the top of my head, my top moment 2025, very lucky, fortunate to be able to go back to Switzerland this summer with my family, I have family in Switzerland, and so we got to do a summer vacation there, and it's just, I think, one of the most beautiful places in the whole world, and it was just so peaceful and amazing to be back there. Also tied to that, I filmed a Photo Dash episode there with Sam and Will, and we were trying to do it like a cross-world Photo Dash in between seasons type of episode. It's not working out with Will and Sam to have them. They never filmed their parts of it, so I'm like, I'm just going to edit my parts into like a little mini episode, so stay tuned for that as well. Caesar, yes, feel free to use the challenges in the local group. If they want to post photos here as well, they are welcome to join the community. New grandson. Ooh, that's a good 2025 moment. And becoming an uncle, that was also probably a highlight. First cousin for my kids. My niece was born in 2025. Amazing. Okay, gonna get straight into the color gradient challenges though. So as always, 1 through 5 scale, 5 being the best, 1 needing some help. 3 in the middle, solid photo. What I'm looking for with a color gradient is not just having some sort of gradient of colors in the photo, but like, is it composed well? Is there a story behind it? Is there something besides just the color gradient that takes it to the next level? So, yes, Thomas mentions getting some AI chatbot chatter. We've been getting a lot of spam in the community. We've got our amazing admin team, moderators helping out with that. But if you see anything, make sure that you mark it, report it to us, and we'll get rid of that spam as much as possible, as fast as possible. Okay, starting off our weekly challenges, we've got David Austin with this beautiful poster. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw my rating out at the very beginning. I'm going to pop it up and then talk about it. And mostly just talk about if there's things, what would I improve? I'm going to give this a 4-star. It's a beautiful photo of this gradient of the sky. Nice portrait. I think the only things that I would probably do to improve it was I personally would probably use some sort of mask or something to highlight that top hot air balloon in the top left and brighten it up just a little bit. It's totally David's style of edit, a little bit darker, moodier, but I think you could add a little bit of pop in exposure to that top left balloon. Just get it pop a little bit, but beautiful, beautiful gradient. 4 stars, maybe leaning 5 for that one. David, great job. And you were probably up in a hot air balloon to get this photo, which is pretty exciting. Colette, this is a super beautiful photo. I'm going to give this one, this one's nice. I'm also going to give this one 4 stars, 4 lightning bolts. I like the different textures that we see here. I love that there's a surfer there going out. It gives you some context for how big this landscape is and adds a lot to the story of the photo. I think without that surfer there, it's still a nice, beautiful landscape type photo, but it just adds to what's going on here. And you can see those waves crashing. I think the only thing that would have made this a little bit better for me is waiting a moment later, or maybe you had a photo from a moment later where you can see like there's 2 waves that are starting to grow in the distance, and getting sort of a different moment where the waves were just about to crest over or something like that. could have added to the intrigue, the interest of this photo. But I like the portrait or the portrait aspect ratio. Just nice way to see that gradient up top to bottom. Really nice. Good job, Colette. Miriam's here. Lovely gradient of leaves. I'm going to give this one a 3 off the bat. I think this is, Miriam, not my favorite photo of yours, but still a lovely gradient. I kind of wish that either it was all in focus. I can see that you focus on those one petals that are in the foreground on the left. I kind of wish that either all the leaves in the background were in focus and it was more like a sort of like flat look at this gradient of leaves, or maybe it's just something about how like that those leaves on the left that are popping in that are in focus, it's kind of like such a small part of the photo that it makes it feel like the whole photo is out of focus and there's not something to really draw my eye's attention to, if that makes sense. I love the gradient. I think that it's just the composition or the focus that I'm not sure. I like having shallow depth of field generally. I liked the bokeh, the out of focus you get at the bottom of the frame. I'm wondering if it would have been nice to see it all in focus. And then you could really see that gradient of colors in this bush or this tree or something like that. Maybe boost that contrast just a little bit. You could get those colors to pop just a little bit. Yeah. All portrait mode photos. Hopefully that helps. Jolene, nice sunset. I knew I was going to see a lot of sunset photos for this challenge. Perfect example of a gradient in the sky. It's a nice moment. I think I'm going to give this a 2. I don't know if that's a little bit too critical. There's something in the distance. At first I thought that was like people out there or something, but it looks just like some sticks or something in the water. The focus is on like, I feel like the water that's in the foreground. And I think for this shot, I'd rather have the focus be deeper or further away from like what's in the middle of the frame is out of focus, which I wouldn't mind if there was something more in the foreground that was interesting to look at. Maybe if the camera was lower to the water and like you had like that first bottom third of the frame in focus with the water, that would have looked nice. Another thing that could have helped, I think, is if you balance the framing of this water on both sides. Notice how on the left you have this tree that's kind of a cool silhouetted framing within the frame, but I kind of want that to be balanced or symmetrical on the right side with a similar framing. So that might have been backing up actually to get that sort of framing. I think that would be, I like that it's more interesting than just getting the water with the sunset. But yeah, I think the composition and the focus is my issue with this photo. If anyone has comments, I'm sure the photographers would love them. So if you haven't done it already, you could leave a comment here, but go to the weekly challenges page on the community and leave your comments. Lots of likes for this photo, but no comments. So share with Jolene what your thoughts are. All right. So great. Thank you for posting though, Jolene. Ooh, Bojan, this is a cool photo. Subtler gradient. You got the blues to the light blues, but really interesting stuff to look at in this photo with the trees, the hazy mist of the clouds, the sunrise coming in. I think this is gonna be a 3 for me, maybe 4. Let's see if I talk myself into a 4 at the end of this. I do like the silhouetting of the trees. I might even try to make it a little contrastier just to get more color, because it's a gradient challenge. Like, I want to see the color gradient a little bit more. I think if you boost the saturation or just the contrast somehow, I think you would get more color in the sky, and so you'd see that warm, those yellows a bit more to increase the gradient color. I might have either zoomed out, backed up just a bit to get more of that tree on the left, or cropped in to not see the trunk myself. Because right now it feels like there's this tree on the very edge that I want to see more of, or I just want that trunk to be out. I don't mind the branches coming in because it kind of like creates this layer effect of all the trees in the distance as well. But it is a nice focal point to be in focus. So maybe seeing more of that would have been nice. Yeah, lots of people liking this photo though. Rosemarie, 4. 4 for Bojan's foggy scene. And Miriam agrees. All right. I think I was a little more critical than I should have. It's a really nice photo. 4. Yeah. I would probably crop in the top. I'm guessing that that doesn't look like a natural cloud at the very top. That looks like a streak from a airplane or something like that. Maybe. And so maybe crop that out. Yeah. All right. Next, we got Ryan. Cool lens ball, light effects. Super creative with this. I'm going to give this one a 4 because it's really cool. This one looks like, talk about a background for a computer screen. This is like classic Mac or Apple type backdrop. I do not like the watermark. I'm like, wow, what is that called again? Watermark. Ryan, I would remove the watermark. It's too distracting from the actual image. The only thing I might have done different is get the camera down a little bit lower, actually, so that the lens ball, there's one on the left, just so that I can see you use like a mirror or something reflective on the bottom, just so that's not cutting through that lens ball, and have that lens ball above it, I think would have been better. Maybe even being tighter on those lens balls. They're kind of small. The main thing I think that's cool about this photo is this abstract light going on. And I almost think just having those colored lights would be cool by themselves. The lens balls add a bit, but like highlight those a bit more. So getting closer or something could have been cool. Maybe like pushing them together. All the reflections and everything is super cool. Very abstract and fun. Yeah, did I give this a 4? Did I give this a 3? Caesar says you wouldn't get the reflections on the bottom. This is true. If you put the camera down lower, you potentially wouldn't get. Oh, I see what you're saying. The reflection of the balls. Yes, if you put the camera down lower, you wouldn't get the lens. Yes, that's true. You wouldn't get the reflection of the balls down at the bottom. That's true. That is cool that you see that. So yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, cool photo. I don't have a lot of other critiques. I think I probably could be fine without those reflections at the bottom, honestly. Unless you want to make it even more symmetrical and just like try to have that reflection point in the middle, and so it's like balanced top to bottom. But I like all the lights at the top that are really cool in the background. So something to play around with. I think putting the camera down still could have been interesting. You would have got a reflection. It wouldn't have been the full symmetrical reflection of the lens balls, but you could probably still see some of it. Might have been interesting. I don't know, something to play around with. All right, Caesar, who's here. Fun long exposure of a car or something going around a bend. I'm trying to read that text. I'm going to give this a 3 as well. There's a lot going on in this shot, and I really appreciate the effort that went into getting this photo. And I'm just trying to see in the photo, it looks like the camera is like close to the ground, like really close to the ground, which is kind of cool because you can see like up through those taillights of the car. I'm almost wondering if, and you have the gradient of the sky, which is cool. So I love the idea of this being a color gradient challenge where you have the gradient in the background, but also there's something else going that makes it really interesting to look at. I think I'm wondering if there was a potential for like another placement of your camera to get that streak of light going around. I'm not sure if the close to the ground is the best option for this. Maybe it was. I'm wondering if you had gone higher up. And again, this might not be possible. This is me just pretending and saying what might look cool, which maybe it wouldn't. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. But I'm just seeing, I'm just envisioning like this curve of light, and if you could see the whole curve or something better through in the frame, and if the camera was up high, like I'm thinking like 10 feet high, which obviously you would need to be on top of something looking down at this curve, but that kind of would have been cool to be able to see like the whole curve at the bottom of the frame with the street, with like the road in it, rather than just like along. But I don't know, it's pretty cool. Caesar says nope, didn't have anywhere to hold it for long exposure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would have taken a tripod, being on top of something totally different thing than you have right now. But for what it is, it's a cool photo, and I can't read what that is on that sign. I'd be interested to know what that says, because that could add to the story of this too. Like if it says something like related to driving fast or something going on, that would be interesting. I might have used a little gradient filter on this photo just to darken up what's in the bottom left of the frame. You see that the road, and it looks like some striped lines or painted lines on the road. Kind of like not necessary in my mind for this photo. So maybe just darken that up just a bit so that really you're just seeing the streak of light and then the gradient above. So yeah, thank you, Caesar, for posting. Hong Wang posted this photo. Another sunset, looks like, maybe. I love the gradient of the sky, but also you have the gradient in the mountains as well, which is cool. And the addition of the silhouette adds to it. This is probably more of like a 3-4 for me, maybe a 4. I like if it didn't have the silhouette, it would be more like a 3 for me. I like the extra effort of doing the silhouette. Standing there adds to this story. I probably would have tilted up just a little bit. You see a tiny bit of like, I think it's probably just like the landscape at the very bottom, like the grass or the hill where you're standing on, or if this is you or someone else, I'm not sure. But I would probably just crop out that bottom part and just like have it be of more of like the distant background, and then just the person popped up in the bottom right. But otherwise, like, great moment, great effort being there for a long time to capture that perfect sunset moment of it about to go over the horizon. And Suzanne says, love it, a bit too orange, maybe the saturation is a little bit over exaggerated. I doubt it looked exactly like that if you were standing there. It's probably, the saturation's probably pushed a bit, which you get just from making it a little bit contrastier, but I actually don't mind it too much myself. Yeah, beautiful photo, Hong. Thank you. Avinash posted this big landscape, lots of colors. I do like the gradient of the greens going to the blue. It's a solid 3. You hit the mark on the topic, color gradient, composed well, focused well. It's like this big landscape. The only thing that doesn't make it a 4 or a 5 in my mind is that it doesn't have anything else going on in it that makes it like intriguing to look at. I actually see, which I didn't see until right this second, I see a person or maybe 2 people in the bottom left. And the person in the bottom left happens to be wearing green, which matches that color gradient. Almost tilting down to see those people might have made it more interesting, just to have like people in it, something else to look at. So yeah, I think the only other way to make a scene like this more interesting is to find a really interesting perspective where maybe there's some cool leading lines that draw your eye through the frame along these hills. Maybe you could see like some of the structures or buildings or roads down below a little bit clearer. Because otherwise it's like a great photo. There's not much to complain about. It's just not as interesting as if there was something else drawing my eye. Hope that makes sense. All right, next photo, Rosemarie. Ooh, the crayons. That's a great choice of a subject for a color gradient challenge. I would probably give this... I think I'm going to give it a 3. It's creative in choosing that pack of crayons as your subject. I am not sure about the composition though, and it's tough because you have this long, narrow box of crayons. So the question is, how do you get that in the frame, showing that gradient? I don't really like that it is... I don't like that it's like the top left, it doesn't match the balance of the bottom right. I would have probably preferred if you were even just tighter, or even if you just crop in and you don't see the full, all the crayons, which you don't see on the bottom right. I'd probably would have just cropped in on the top left as well, just to match that balance. Rosemarie says, struggle to tell story, struggle with focus stacking. Oh, interesting. I wonder, yeah. Maybe even if it was at more of an angle. I don't mind. I like the idea of the flat top-down look of the tips of the crayons, but maybe if you were like closer to the one part of the crayons on the bottom left and the rest were like out of focus in the background, that might have worked. But with this composition, I think even just cropping in, maybe even boost the exposure just a little bit, or the exposure of the shadows specifically, just to make it a little brighter. It feels a little dark, the crayons themselves, and that would allow us to see the colors a bit more. But great choice of a subject for gradient. All right, Peter Striatum. Cool landscape. I mean, beautiful landscape. Probably going to give this one a 3 as well. What do I want more in this photo? That's always the question. And everyone's going to be in the comments, Phil, you're giving everyone a 3. Why do you give everyone a 3? The rocks in the clear water are super cool. I kind of want to be closer to those rocks underwater. Like, I think if your camera was set, there's the 2 rocks in this big puddle in the middle. And I think, again, it's just my preference, I think. It's just my preference. When I see a photo like this, it looks like it's at eye level. And I'm like, could there be a more interesting photo if your camera was a foot off the water and you saw the reflection and you could really see like these cool rocks underwater? But then you also have a couple popping out of the water and you can see the details a little bit more clearly. That could have been interesting. I mean, there's also something to be said about just having a big wide shot like this where you see the whole thing. It's a little bit dark, which is tough because it's like part of me is like, make it more contrasty so you can get more color in the sky and then the water. But part of me is like, oh, those rocks are really dark. I want to see more detail. So that's a tricky balance to figure out the exposure for this. I just think that even in the bottom right corner, there was an opportunity for creating sort of like a framing of the bottom of a composition with these rocks that are outside the water, and then a few rocks leading into the distance with a cool reflection with all the color. I think there was an opportunity for like a really creative composition here. That being said, being picky on Peter, being super picky because it's beautiful colors and a lot of people love your photos. So Rosemarie thinks it's a 5 Peter and Jenny loves the colors. And your icon, Jenny, kind of matches the color vibe of Peter's photo. Tom Falconer posted another landscape. This is a really tough one. My initial gut is to give this one a 2. There's still like a color-ish gradient, but I think because the cloudy sky just it all looks a little dreary. It's not like a pop of color gradient, which is fine. It doesn't have to be like super vibrant colors to be interesting. I just think that like you have the foreground sharp, in focus, more color than the background because of this foggy, cloudy atmosphere. Suzanne loves it. Green to gray loves it. And it's I think if there was, I'm wondering if it like at a different time of day, if you would still get a gradient of colors in here. I kind of want to see like the distant hills, at least that middle strip of land, a little bit clearer. And I think like the fogginess makes it hard to see that. So maybe a different time of day would have helped with this. And again, similar as I think it was Abhishek's photo, where it's nice to see a whole landscape like this. It's beautiful. Like I want to be there right now, just looking at this foggy scene. But for a photo that has a more interesting composition, is there any way to have leading lines or foreground elements that create more of an interesting framing, or something, whether it's like a single building or a single tree that stands out and is an interesting object in this frame or in this landscape that's beyond it? It's easier to like say those things than to actually do it, because sometimes there's just not anything like that to capture. But those are just, I'm just trying to give you ideas for when you're out there photographing a landscape like this, things to look out for to make a more interesting photo to look at. Srija Kota, this is a great example of exactly that, where you have like these two rock formations in this landscape that I think it's, for me, the simplicity of it, where it's like these two things that pop from the background that I actually like a bit more, or that make me like this photo a bit more than like those previous ones. Srija, I'm going to give you a 4. I think the photo, like, stunning. The first look, I think it's stunning. A couple things I would change to improve it even is I think the blues are a bit almost oversaturated. I don't know if you did a sort of color specific saturation adjustment, but I could see maybe you did. If not, then I mean, it's just super blue and super beautiful. I might have panned to the left just a tiny bit. It feels like that left rock is a little close to the edge of the frame, but otherwise, I love the colors. I mean, now that I say that, is it like so much a gradient? There is a bit of a gradient in the yellows on the rock. There's a bit of a gradient too in the blues of the ocean, the white to blue and sort of turquoisey blue at the bottom to the darker blues at the top. So yeah, I think there is a gradient for sure. But just compositionally, this is very interesting to me. So good job. All right, Abhishek. This is not the same Abhishek, is it? Whoop. Oh, is Avinash. Sorry, Avinash. I called you Abhishek. Abhishek posted this one. Reflection, some sort of cool leading line, lots of stuff going on here. I'm not sure if it's color gradient to me. Let me know in the comments what I'm missing, because I'm not really seeing too much of a gradient. I guess there's like on the left, you got like the turquoisey green at the bottom in the water. You have like the blue at the top. Kind of. Yeah, I guess across the frame, there's like this sort of change in the greens and the blues, which is kind of cool. There's a lot going on here. There's like this cool building in the top left. You got this parking structure in the top right. You have this reflection with like these wiggly lines in the bottom left. I agree with Miriam that more of a leading lines challenge. I think if you were to the side or something and you saw the lines of the parking structure of the walkway leading to that building or something. Honestly, what I think is kind of mostly interesting about this photo is the whole left side of the frame, where you have this building with the clouds and the reflection, and then going down you have like the reflection in the water with these like ripply lines of the building. If it was just like a portrait crop, or if you had framed it up on the left side of just that left third of the frame, I think that would have maybe helped me with it being a color gradient and also just an interesting photo. So unfortunately, I think it's not like a terrible photo. I think there's a lot of opportunity here for a lot of different challenges, but for this challenge, it's unfortunately not working for me, Abhishek. So hopefully that challenges you to get out there and do something different for this challenge if you want, or next time. All right, Thomas, with this very cool building. Is this how it naturally is, Thomas? These colors? Is this a building? What? Yeah, it looks like you're looking up at a building or something. I mean, it's really cool. It's got a cool gradient to it as well. I'm like turning my head because I feel like naturally I'm like wanting to look up. I'm wondering if this photo would look better, honestly, tilted up. It's a solid 4 for me just because the color gradient is super interesting. It pops compared to a lot of the other photos. I almost wonder if cropping in tighter would have helped me. Bottom of the building is on the left side, the colors. Well, Thomas, did you add like the gradient in post? It's creative. A lot of people saying 5. Celeste 5. Miriam 10. Suzanne 5. I think I would like it in the portrait orientation a bit too, as Rosemary says. But now that I'm wondering if the color gradient was added in post, I'm not sure if I will accept it so much for this challenge. Generally, I want it to be captured in an actual photo. For what it is, it's pretty cool though, Thomas. And what is that? So what is the overhang thing? Like, part of me wishes that was not there, so you just have this like straight sort of leading into the distance building, into the mist, into the white. Yeah. So I'm torn about this photo. It's cool if it's added in post. I'm just not sure if it really counts in my book for the type of challenges that we do. The building is colorful, just not enough. Okay, well, if it's colorful, Thomas, if it has these colors then, and you just boosted the saturation a bit, that's fine. If these are like lights shining on it or something. If this is just like an overlay, I'm not sure. Now you get to rate me. And I was sad that for the past couple challenges, I did not go out and take a photo. And I'm sad because I just didn't get a good photo. I didn't go out and take a photo. I've just been so busy. So I went back through my catalog and found one that works. It's not my best photo. It's a cool gradient. It's a beach reflection, but I'd probably give myself a 3 just because the color gradient is really cool, but it's nothing more than that. There's no subject. There's no more story to it. And so I would like to go capture a photo like this with something more in it. So be brutal. Give me whatever you think I should. And knock off points because I didn't actually go shoot this photo this week. This is an old photo that I found in Lightroom. I was like scrolling through Lightroom. I'm like, where's the gradient? Where's the gradient? So not what I want people to be doing for challenges. So I'm not a good example. All right, Cindy. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so I'm going to give this a 3, but you could make it a 4 right now and with just a different crop. I actually think that you got this beautiful gradient of the trees, like the different colors of the trees. Then you have this rainbow, which just adds to the story and this ambiance. You're shooting at an angle so like the horizon line or just the way this looks, it looks tilted. So I would probably straighten out that line across the frame and then just crop tighter. I think just if you could have zoomed in or had a different lens, just zoomed into that sort of top left part of the frame with the reflection, with the trees, with the rainbow, a little bit of the rainbow on the bottom reflected, but more on the top, that would have been money for me. Maybe like a 5 for me, honestly. This is one where I don't need leading lines. I don't need framing within a frame. I don't need foreground elements because the beautiful trees, the rainbow, the reflection is enough for me. So amazing opportunity and solid photo, Cindy. I think you could, I'm not sure about the focus, if it's sharp enough in this photo to just be able to crop in that top left. But I would have probably like moved a little bit to the left so I don't get that tree on the right overhanging. Obviously might not be possible. You might be like stuck at the end of a path or something, but ideally move to the left just a little bit or crouch down so you're not seeing that foreground tree in the right, and just focus on that beautiful gradient of patches in the background. Suzanne loves it too. All right. Mubin. Ooh, interesting gradient with the Ferris wheel, which I like. I don't like the composition of this one. It's probably like a 2 for me. I think there was opportunity maybe to do a portrait crop or just framing it of just the reflection with the Ferris wheel in the background. That's where I see the gradient. So highlighting that I think could have been cool. Even just like a tight shot, the top of the Ferris wheel, even if it was sort of like negative spacey with like lots of dark sky behind it, but just like the bottom curve of this Ferris wheel that has the gradient, I think would have been cool. There's just so much going on here that's sort of distracting me from the gradient that I think, could have, there's opportunity for more interesting compositions here. Maybe it's getting closer to that Ferris wheel looking up at it or something. If you want to frame it up something like this, like I kind of don't like the railing in the top bottom left, and so maybe if you want to show that though, back up and get more of that in there and get the pier or whatever this is in the frame so that you're seeing it or something. I don't know, just ideas. I think huge potential here for a really cool shot though. All right, Dave Parkinson, very abstract, soft, tight shot of these clouds that do have a nice gradient to them. I think it's a solid 3. I probably would have boosted the exposure just a little bit, or I don't know. I was going to say tilt up, but I'm just trying to think of a way to soften the gradient a little bit because the top is so bright. But like each cloud, you see it get a little bit darker going down this frame, which is really nice actually. I mean, something like this is one where you don't need a subject in front of it. You don't need something else to tell the story of a photo. Sometimes just the clouds is nice. And this, I think, is a really nice composition of it. So very solid. I think the only thing about it that is probably tough is you might have cropped in quite a bit. I see a little bit of digital noise there, and it's a little soft. That's a choice. Do you want it to be soft? Do you want more detail? You could play around with that in editing. The digital noise, you could probably reduce that a little bit and just have like these soft clouds. I kind of want a little bit more definition in the clouds to see like the stacking. But I love that crop of these clouds the way it is. So really nice. Derek has this super psychedelic abstract shot. I don't know how you even shot this. This is like water droplets with maybe like a screen behind it or something. It's super interesting and psychedelic. For like abstract color gradient, this is awesome. I mean, I'm going to give it a 4 because it's for what it is, it's like, to me, really cool. Yeah, I don't really have any critiques. So it's just like psychedelic and trippy. It's like really cool colors. You do get a color gradient. It's not as soft of a gradient as I like expected for this challenge, or like as natural, but for like coming up and creating this photo, really cool job, Derek. Yeah, no other critiques. Radomir, this is a very soft gradient, and this is a very Phil style photo. I love this style photo. Very soft, negative space. You get it's a nice composition of the buildings below. You got some poking out, very clean lines, straight horizon. I think you could have gone in here and like really bumped up the contrast to increase that the saturation. I'm trying to bring this photo. Oh, this is in Barcelona, and I'm just looking at it on my computer. And sorry, I'm just playing around with it myself. I brought it up. Yeah, I'm adding some contrast and saturation to it myself, which is like a totally different photo. And I'm not even gonna show that because that's bad. But yeah, I really like it. I love the softness of it. It's like Caesar says, very cinematic. I think there's some other photos earlier that like some people might have liked better and given it a 5, but I'm actually going to give this one a 5 just because it's my favorite so far. Just the negative space, soft vibe, something about it just I'm drawn to. And yeah, I don't have to defend myself. I like it. It's good. Solid color gradient. And I like the choice. It's a very advanced photographer choice to not boost the saturation like crazy, and not boost the contrast just because you want more color. So really good job. Ooh, Michelle, this is cool. I like this one. And Miriam, I don't know if you're on here, but this is an example of like maybe some inspiration for you for that one photo that you posted, where I feel like I like that there's one thing in focus that also has the gradient, and then the background also has the gradient. I might have like cropped in just a little bit. It's like sort of awkwardly not perfectly centered, I feel like. Or maybe the top is centered, but because the stock goes down to the right, it feels not perfectly centered. I might have done a portrait crop. I think this is a 4 for me. The background bokeh is so wild on this photo because of the shape of all the things in the background. I probably would have added a bit more contrast for this photo myself. Maybe it's a 3, maybe 4, 3.5 for me. It's a really fun gradient that you find in those petals of this flower or whatever it is. Yeah. All right, Diana. Nice sunsetty gradient. Solid 3 in my book, I would say. It's the horizon looks a little not level to me. I do like the silhouette. I'm wondering if like the silhouette's too dark almost. Like if you brought up the exposure of the darks or shadows and saw just little hints of like the houses and the buildings in the foreground, if that would have been interesting, or maybe not, or maybe just like a more panoramic cinematic crop would be interesting. Yeah, no, it's solid gradient photo, and the colors really pop, which is nice. I think the most interesting part about this photo to me is that like center strip of the gradient, the clouds, that hill, the water, and the little bit of silhouetting and framing at the bottom of the water. So I think cropping in on that, just taking out some of the top and bottom, might have made this like a solid 4 or maybe even a 5 in my book if it was just that sort of center strip and it was leveled out. Ooh, this is a cool crop of this plant, Annette. It's very skinny for it, and I don't know if that's like a typical like standard 16:9 crop or 9:16 crop. Yeah, I mean, it's a solid 3. It's a good gradient. And you cropped it in, I think, to remove any distractions, which I think is good. It's similar to that one of the clouds, I think, but maybe to me just not as interesting. I think I gave that one a 3 as well. So this one's like kind of like on par with that in terms of subject matter. Solid gradient, good crop to focus on that. I guess it's not as like interesting to me as some of the other ones though. But yeah, hit the color gradient theme. Ooh, Mirella. Interesting gradient in the background of this bug, which I have no clue how you shot this, if this was like through glass or something. I like that the gradient is that backdrop, but then you have this really interesting, really interestingly lit subject. So this is like a solid 4 for me. Yeah, like super interesting. I want to know how you photograph this. Maybe you wrote about this in the post. Let me see where this one is. Bug on my window. Broke the rule of not shooting through glass. Gradient on background and subject, or that's the idea at least. Yeah, through glass. That's very cool. I like it. I don't know what that background is that creates that gradient, but the lighting on the bug is like super trippy. I'm not sure if that gradient in the background was just kind of created. I can almost see that like maybe it's like these masks around this bug and you just kind of soften the background, blurred it. So I'm not sure. I would need more detail about how you created this photo, but for what it is, it looks solid. It's kind of like Thomas's photo of the building with the gradient. Looking at the photo itself, solid. Really cool gradient. How you created that gradient, was it natural in the frame, or created more, changes my opinion about it. Michelle, that's a cool photo. Cool photo of the feather. So simple. Did Michelle have a very similar photo last week of like something on a texture? I can't remember what it was, but it seems like I'm remembering something like that. The feather has this amazing texture and detail and gradient to it, and then on top of the metal. Sorry, Celeste, I see that you said there was a mistake in the spelling. Great rule of thirds. Great focus on the feather. This is a solid 5 for me. Good job, Michelle. This is probably my second favorite photo. Maybe my top favorite photo. Again, it's just my kind of thing, and I like just finding this random object that has this beautiful gradient in it, and then it's composed on this cool textured background. Awesome photo. All right, Suzanne, you're up. Photo of, I'm looking at walk to work, across the water. I see the gradient. It's a little soft for me. I mean, that's partially because the fog, which is kind of cool. And then you have some little reeds of plant on the right that you see as well that might be in more focus. I mean, it's just the quality that I'm looking at of the upload that's hard to tell if there's like a lot of digital noise in this or not, or like compression weird stuff going on, or if it's just in like the upload itself. This is a tough one. I think I actually like the reflection and the softness. I think the plants on the right side bother me, so I might have like cropped those out, just pan to the left maybe if that was a possibility to just get the tree itself. That probably would have been like a solid photo, 3, maybe 4 stars for me. I think for this photo, Suzanne, I'm going to give you a 2. It's not as good as some of the ones that you've posted recently to challenges. Yeah, maybe I'm being a little tough. The tree could have looked really cool. I think even with the softness, if it was just the tree, just like symmetrical, even centered or something like that, might have looked kind of cool. Maybe. It's your walk. You said it's on your walk to work, so maybe you can take that photo and see if that looks good, as good as I'm thinking it might. All right, Lucra. I think this is your first photo submitted to weekly challenges, maybe. So thank you for participating. Awesome choice of a natural thing with a color gradient. Exposure wise, I would play with it. This is like a 3 for me. I like the top down look. The focus on the flower petals seems pretty good, which is sometimes hard. A lot of people will like focus on like the tip of a petal, when really it would have been nice to get like the full top of the flower in focus. I think I would crop in just a little bit. It's not perfectly centered. I think like because it's so close to being centered, I would have cropped that in, centered it perfectly, and then use maybe like a little gradient filter or radial filter to increase the saturation, or not saturation, the exposure in the middle. It's just a little dark in the middle of that flower. But otherwise, I think like just with a couple editing tweaks, it could be really solid. So yeah, good job. And then this is our last photo. Cree Harris. Cool color gradient you get at this concert with like the fog. You barely get a color gradient. I like that you get that purpley pink violet in the right, because without that, I don't know if it would be so much of a gradient. I almost think for this photo to be cooler, it would have been cool to be tighter in on this musician and just like from like a cowboy shot from knees up basically. And with the fog, they would just kind of be like popping out into this foggy gradient background. I think like the crop is kind of just like standard full body, so getting more creative with it would have helped. I think the gradient, to Caesar's comment, too much red. Yeah, and maybe composing it, if you could have been to the left a little bit more or tighter where you see more of that pink, bluish purple, that would have created more of an actual gradient, which I think would have helped with this challenge. So I think for all of those reasons, it's not like a bad photo at all. I think just for this challenge, I'm going to give it a 2. Compositionally wise, just tighten up on like your singer in this foggy atmosphere. Maybe if you could have gone to the left a little bit to get more of that pink in the background, that would have helped and made it a more interesting photo anyways. So yeah, I don't mind the silhouettiness of his face though. I think it's kind of like a cool outline. And with that, that's it. I don't think I went that much faster than the previous one because I feel like we didn't have many photos for this week, and we only had one. Last week we did 2 challenges, but I feel pretty good about this week's challenges. You guys did amazing work, and you should all be proud of yourself. This week we are doing the challenge for this week, which I'll talk about next week, is leading lines. Ooh, this one is a fun one. So much opportunity for there to be interesting photos. So for this challenge, I'm looking for lines in a photo that draw the eye to something. Not necessarily always has to be a subject in that center of those lines, but some lines through your frame that are just interesting. Jenny, you said yours was missed. Let me see if I can bring it up really quickly. But I should be back next week for sure. Let's see if I search for Jenny. Let's see. Jenny. Oh, here we go. You know why, Jenny? And this is just, I know my assistant sometimes misses these. I'm sorry, but this is a great example. When you guys post your post with a big comment above the photo, sometimes you don't see it. So make sure that you post your photo at the very top and then have your comment below. But since we caught it, this is great. The Nikon Z6 Mark II. All right, so we got where is this? Golden Gate National Park. Where is that? This is nice composition. So this is, I've talked about a few photos of landscapes where like finding that leading line that makes it interesting, or a foreground element that makes it interesting. I love all the textures here that make this a super interesting photo. And that face of the rock wall on the right is so cool. I probably would have maybe boosted the exposure just a little bit. I don't know. It's kind of like this darker, neutral, flatter tones of the photo of the natural colors. That's nice. But I think having a little tiny bit more saturation, which you would get maybe by adding some exposure to the highlights and the shadows, and then keep those blacks down, and that would add a little bit more contrast back, might have helped. I see a lot of gradients going on. I think for this challenge to highlight just one gradient, maybe it would have been cool to like focus in on the rock walls. That being said, I like the idea of this photo where it's very well composed, but you also have the gradients in the photo. So this is like a solid 3, maybe 4 for me. If I had a 3.5 button, I would probably give it a 3.5. The only thing I would probably do differently next time is, it's so beautiful, this natural world, and then you have these buildings on the left. So maybe if your camera was down a little bit more, those foreground objects on the left side, those flowers, which are super interesting in themselves, and that hill on the sort of left side would have just blocked these buildings. Hey, look at it. You can see my mouse here. Maybe I should just show the photos in the community, because now I can like point out things. That's interesting. What do you guys think about that? But yeah, I think this face of the wall is a little bit dark, so maybe brightening that up. And these things could just be used with done with little brushes, gradient filters, that kind of thing. But beautiful photo, Jenny. Looking at it here, yeah, I think boosting the overall exposure a little bit, even if that means some of the clouds and things get a little bit overexposed or brighter than they are right now, I think that would be fine. All right, so next week, I look forward to seeing your leading lines challenge. And I think that's it. All right. Have a beautiful week. I think we're doing one more live stream before the end of the year. Okay, I have December. I don't have it even scheduled. I think I will be back next Thursday for the weekly challenge review. I have to confirm on my calendar. And if I do, that's going to be the last one of the year because of the holidays. So stay tuned for that. Check the weekly challenges or the live sessions page to know if I'm going to be back. I should. Otherwise, have a great rest of the year, and we'll see you soon. All right. Bye, everyone. Much love. Have a great day. Bye.